Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, but no material introduction. No material introduction, and keep it very short if you can.
Hello, good morning everyone. I welcome you all to this program, satsang program. We are very fortunate to have His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj amongst us.
Radhana
Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj among us. His first visit to our new campus, and we are very glad to hear from him. So Maharaj actually he has stayed in many places. So he was earlier in Mumbai. He was leading the ISKCON temple there for several years. And he was also in Vrindavan for several years, leading the temple there. As of now, Maharaj is very close to us. Belgaum, he is leading the temple there. And for many years now, there is a very wonderful congregation in Belgaum now. They celebrate all festivals in a very grand way, Rath Yatras also, apart from the regular temple programs, temple festivals. And he also continues to travel worldwide, teaching the message of the Bhagavad Gita, which inspired him from his youth. And he has taken that path for more than 3 decades now, and practicing and also preaching the message all over. In the year 1996, in particular, he traveled widely and conducted national level teach-take debate competitions in various colleges and universities across India and Nepal, covering to the tune of 250 cities and over 5,000 colleges. And in line with the principle of simple living and high thinking, he is also actively involved in the development of a self-sufficient Vedic eco-village near Belgaum called Gokuldham, which is spread over 450 acres of lush green forest. And this place is something you have to see to believe it, because this particular place has been developed and very fundamental, very ecological principles. So there is no electricity, firstly, and all the construction, the food, agriculture, everything is without any motorized tool or implements. So everything is, even the construction of houses or the food that is grown is very taking care of the ecology around. And they have it's so large that they have a fountain inside that particular land, 450 acres. And yeah, so his talks and videos are all online, very easily accessible. Maharaj speaks in many languages. If you see his online lectures, he speaks in English, Hindi, Marathi, and Bengali also. So for today, I think even the audience will request Maharaj to speak in English, and I'm sure you'll find it very enlightening. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay. Along with Maharaj, I will also like to introduce and welcome Sadayogi Prabhu. Sadayogi Prabhu is the temple president of the ISKCON Dharwad Center, and he has been leading the program and the activities in terms of teaching there for many years now. We are also very grateful to have Sadayogi Prabhu here with all of us. And along with Sadayogi Prabhu, we have he is also assisting Sadayogi Prabhu in the temple activities and the programs and the festivals and the overall activities within Dharwad. There is a center in ISKCON Dharwad, there is a center in Maratha Colony. So, in fact, there is a very new temple that is coming very close to us, less than 5 kilometers away, just next to the Narendra Toll Plaza. We will share some more details towards the end. And yeah, with that, we will welcome him with a garland. And with that, I will request Maharaj to kindly enlighten us with his golden words. Thank you.
Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Pancha Tattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajeshatanayas Taddhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumartho Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhormatamidam Tatradara Naparaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna and a very good morning to all of you. We are used to calling our host as Tamal Gopal, but he just informed me that the name by which he is known is also Tamal Das. And as devotees of Lord Krishna, we all have a name ending in Das. So he's fortunate to have that as his surname. And the reason for having it as Das is because we want to indicate that we are servants of God. That is our ultimate and actually true identity. We all have many identities. We may identify as man or woman, or we may identify as engineer or doctor. We may identify as child or youth or old aged person. We may identify as rich man, poor man. We may identify ourselves in terms of language, community, region of origin, and in so many ways. So we all have multiple identities. But all these identities pertain to the physical body. This body is not the real us, the real we, the real I, and the real you. This is the most fundamental teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, that we are spiritual selves, the Atma. We are not this body. So whatever identities that we assume for ourselves in this world are all connected with this material body. And because these bodies are temporary, the body had an origin and it is going to have an end. Therefore, these identities are also temporary. And because they are temporary, they are not actually real. They are not actually very meaningful, except in the course of day-to-day interactions in this world. Just for the sake of day-to-day operations or dealings with people in the world, we have to identify as something. So for example, we may identify as male and female. So when you go to a public place, there are different toilets for men, different toilets for women. So identity is important because practically it has a lot of bearing on the way we live our life. But when we look at it from the spiritual point of view, at that time we realize that none of these identities are permanent. We may be male in this life, and we may have been female in the last life, or we may be female in the next life. We may be female in this life, and we may have been male in the last life. We may have been rich in the last life, we may be poor in this life. So our bodily identities are temporary and they are always changing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Lord Krishna, who advented about 500 years ago, he has taught us that the real identity that we should understand for ourselves, the permanent identity that overrides all other identities, is that we are the eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. Even understanding ourselves to be the Atma is true. It is our true identity, but it is not a complete description of our identity. Because when we say, I am the Atma, the next question is, where does the Atma come from? So if you want a complete description of our identity, which is at the same time very concise, to the point, very precise, then this is the definition, that we are Das. So you have a very good surname. So Das means servant, but we are servant of God, servant of Lord Krishna. That is the whole point. When we think in terms of physical or bodily relations, at that time we think it is not a very good thing to be a servant. We think in terms of high and low in this world. Somebody is a master, somebody is a servant. Therefore, in India, we call a job as service. He is in government service. What do? I am in service. So who is in service? A servant. Even for because you are all technical people, but in law there is something called a public servant. A very important official designation. Not everybody can be called a public servant. A public servant is a very important designated position. And if you offend a public servant, then it is a grievous crime. Because a public servant is representing the state or the government in the execution of certain duties. Say like a district magistrate or a police commissioner or something like that. Yes? So they're called public servants. So the word servant is there everywhere. Even in the political world. Come elections and all the politicians are telling you, we are your servant, we want to serve you. Of course, after the elections, it's a different story. But nevertheless, the idea that we are servants is there in the material world also, in our day-to-day life. Of course, we don't like to identify ourselves as servant because we want to be the master. And according to Bhagavad Gita, this is the real reason why we are in this predicament. What is that predicament? The predicament is that we are refugees in this place, in this world. We are in an unnatural environment. We are like fish out of water. We are not where we should be. We are spiritual beings, the Atma. So the Atma is supposed to be in the spiritual realm. Just like a fish is meant to be in the water. You take the fish out of the water and the fish will never be happy. So similarly, the Atma has been taken out of its spiritual atmosphere and placed in an alien, strange atmosphere. So it is a very incompatible combination of spirit and matter, of Atma and the material body and the material world. So because of this incompatible combination, we can never be truly happy. So when the identity is understood, the true identity is understood, then we also realize the reason behind our predicament. So what is the problem with this incompatible situation? Why is it a predicament? It is a predicament because as the Atma, we are Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means eternal. Chit means full of knowledge. Ananda means full of bliss. But this body, the Deha or the Sharira, is exactly the opposite. It is Asat, Achit and Nirananda. So it is Asat because it is temporary. It is Achit because it is full of ignorance. We don't know so many things. Actually, compared to what we don't know, what we know is a very, very, very tiny percentage. Am I right? Even in your own field, if you talk to a medical doctor, a specialist, nowadays when you specialize more and more and more, there's an MBBS doctor, then let's say he specializes in some ophthalmic surgery, then becomes an ophthalmologist, Then they specialize further in retina, someone in cornea, someone in this, someone in that. And then even there they have some super specializations. And they study just a very tiny portion. So the deeper you go, the more you understand how much there is to know in this world. And the truly wise person is one who understands that he or she really does not know. What we know is something very, very tiny, very insignificant. Even the biggest scholar, the most knowledgeable and intelligent person in the world, his or her knowledge is also actually speaking from a universal point of view, almost close to zero. Look at the scale of the universe. Such a vast universe with so many planets and stars, and we have one tiny planet, Earth. And even in this Earth, we hardly know anything. We think we know a lot, but actually you ask the specialists, you ask those who study the oceans, how much they know about what is going on in the ocean, what kind of living entities live there, what is happening below. The earth, what is happening inside the earth. You ask geologists who are truly knowledgeable. So you take any field of knowledge, and a truly knowledgeable person in that field will tell you that actually we know very little. So we are here in a place where we are unaware, we are ignorant. So achit and asat meaning temporary. We don't last for very long. 50, 60, 70, 100 years. Everything in this world is temporary. The trees, the different species of life, the earth itself. Everything is temporary. So asat, achit and nirananda. So this body doesn't give us any happiness. Some pleasure does come out, but it is very nominal, very flickering. So the soul is the complete opposite of that, as Sat, Chit, Ananda. So just look at the incompatible combination. The Sat, Chit, Ananda soul is inside the Asat, Achit, Nirananda body and the Asat, Achit, Nirananda world. So how can it be a good combination? And therefore, whenever there is incompatible combination, there is a problem. Like in any marriage, if husband and wife are not compatible, so many problems. If two friends are not compatible in their nature, they have difficulties. So compatibility is very important. So this material world is not a compatible place for the soul. Because here we identify with this body, and the body is repeatedly subject to so many problems. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. He says one of the beginning points of knowledge is to recognize that birth, death, old age and disease. Janma means birth, Jara means old age, Vyadhi means disease, and Mrityu or Marana means death. So these are the four basic miseries of life in this world. Till such time as one does not recognize the four basic miseries, one cannot be said to be in true knowledge. True knowledge is not a matter of getting a degree from a college or a university or being a scholar in a particular discipline. True knowledge is to understand who I am, what is the nature of the world in which I live, what is the goal of my life, what is the source of true happiness. So Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the beginning point of knowledge is to appreciate that this material world is a place of misery. It has been programmed and designed to be a place of misery. Many of you are in the field of computers, and you all know the importance of programming. When a computer is programmed in a certain way, then it acts in that way. You can't change it. Only the programmer can actually change it. when he understands what to do. So similarly, this material world has also been programmed in a certain way. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It is an abode of misery. And this birth, old age, disease, death, and then again rebirth, birth, old age, disease, death, and this goes on and on and on repeating. And this is called the cycle of birth and death, samsara chakra. Chakra means the wheel, sansar means this repetition of birth and death. So we take birth, we grow old, we die, we take birth again, and in this way it goes on and on and on. And in every lifetime, regardless of which kind of body we get, it is going to be subject to so many miseries, disease, and many, many other kinds of difficulties. So this is our predicament. So what is the need to understand our true identity? The need to understand the true identity is to first of all get a release from our predicament, from our problem. And when we understand that I am not the master, I am actually in every respect the controlled entity. The laws of nature are acting upon me. I am not independent. The law of gravity is acting on me. The laws of physics, chemistry, biology are all acting on me. I cannot change those laws. So just as there are laws in science, there are also laws of spiritual science. There are laws which are given by the Shastra. The laws of karma. For every action we do, there is a reaction that comes. So every time we act in the world in a certain way, there will be some reaction that comes. And in order to face the reaction to that action, we have to be born again in this world. Yes? So this causes a repetition of birth and death again and again and again. And we have to be subjected to all these miseries, one after the other, one after the other. So, what is the reason for us being here? The reason for us being here is that we are hoping to be masters, controllers, enjoyers, whereas factually that is not our real position. Our real position is that we are always subordinate. We cannot be independent. Nobody is independent in this world. Everybody is under the control of something or someone. Even the biggest person in the world ultimately is under the control of someone or something. Which is why you see that even powerful people in high positions, they get deposed sometime. They have to retire or resign, or they're forced to resign. They're moved out from their position. So there's always something or someone higher than us, more powerful than us. So to the extent that we understand or we imagine that we are independent controllers, to that extent we will be constantly subjected to this incompatible situation. We will have to remain here birth after birth, life after life. And according to the kind of karmas we do, we will get different kinds of bodies. It may be a human body, it may be an animal body, or a bird body, a tree body, or any kind of body. So the important thing is that we understand and recognize our true nature, which is to be the Das. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who I mentioned briefly, he has defined himself as being Gopi Bhartuhu Padakamalayur Dasa Dasanu Dasaha. Gopi Bhartu. Gopis are the milkmaids of Vrindavan. Bhartu means the master. The master of the gopis is Lord Krishna. So Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayur, that means the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Das Das Anu Das. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that my true identity is that I am the servant of Lord Krishna. In this way, when we understand that I am the servant of God, I will act in obedience to His laws. Inasmuch as a citizen has to act in obedience to the laws of the country. If the citizen does that, then he will be happy. He will be peaceful. But if a citizen breaks the laws of the country, then there will be misery because he will be put in the jail. He will have to go through the court and go through so many miseries. So therefore, just as if we want to be happy in the country, we have to follow the laws of the state and live in harmony with everybody else, so also, if we want to be happy in life in general, we have to live in harmony with the laws that the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna has made. In the Bhagavatam it is said, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Dharma or laws are made by God alone. And because we have decided to be independent of God, so we have been sent here into this material world. So I talked earlier about the predicament. So there is a nice story in the Mahabharata about a dialogue between Dhritarashtra and Vidur. You've all heard of these two names, these two personalities. So Vidura was the brother of Dhritarashtra, and he was considered very wise. Even though he was not considered by the norms of those days to be eligible to be the king, but nevertheless he was extremely wise, and his brother Dhritarashtra always took good advice from him. So one time when Vidur saw that Dhritarashtra was getting increasingly attached to this world, and because of that attachment, he was being partial to his sons, and he was doing injustice to the sons of his brother Pandu, that is the Pandavas. Vidura would advise him on many occasions. And on one such occasion, Vidur started giving an allegorical story. He spoke about this one man who was lost in the forest. And the forest was very thick. And he got completely lost in the forest. And in that forest, it was so thick that he could not find his way around anywhere. And he saw all sorts of fearful creatures, animals everywhere. And he was running away in fear of all of them. And then he saw a hideous old lady like a demoness who was very large and who was advancing menacingly towards him. And he began to flee from her as well. And he could not make out the directions. He was just simply blindly running, just in order to save himself, hoping that he would find some exit from this jungle at some point. And as he was running, as his destiny would have it, he fell into a ditch, like a well that had dried up for a long time. And that well had been covered by all sorts of grass and twigs and plants, so it was not visible. So as he was running, he stepped straight into it. But there were also many vines and creepers coming from the tree above. And as he stumbled and fell into that pit or that well, his feet got entangled in those creepers. And what happened is that he hung upside down inside the well. His feet were up, tied by the creeper, and his face was hanging downwards, and he was hanging in the well like this. A very precarious situation. What made it even more precarious was the following. At the bottom of the well, he saw a huge snake, like a python, with its mouth open, waiting for him to fall. So that is how a python eats. A python will keep its mouth open, and when an animal or any entity comes in, then it just swallows him in. So he was hanging helplessly, and down below was this huge snake. And then that was not all. He was being bitten all along by different types of insects like mosquitoes and bugs and so on. Apart from that, he saw, when he looked up, even as he was hanging down and he was looking up, he saw that there was a 6-faced elephant with 12 feet that was gazing down at him in a very threatening manner. And then he looked at the creeper from which he was hanging, and he saw that there was some white and black mice who were crawling up and down on that creeper, and they were nibbling at the creeper. And in this way, his situation was completely miserable. You can imagine in your mind the condition of this man as he was hanging like that. Yes? And somehow or the other, there was a honeycomb on the top of the tree. And from the honeycomb, little drops of honey were dropping down. And again, by destiny, it so happened that those honey drops, or that honeycomb, was right on top of this man. And the drops of honey came falling down. Some came onto his face, and it went into his mouth, and he extended his tongue to taste that honey. And it was delicious. It was very sweet. So he became very attracted. He became tempted to taste this honey more and more. So gradually, as he was tasting it, another drop fell. And then when that got over, another drop fell. And in this way, one after the other, he was waiting for the different drops of honey to fall. And he was relishing the taste of that honey. And he forgot the very dangerous predicament in which he was. Reflect for a moment on this man's condition. He is lying, or rather he is hanging upside down. His feet are tied by a creeper, and he's looking into a dry well at the bottom of which there is a snake. There is a dangerous elephant on the top. He's being bitten all the time by insects and bugs, and the rats are gnawing away at the creeper. Eventually the creeper will snap and he will fall down into the mouth of that big snake. But still, despite all these difficulties, his mind is completely engaged in wanting to taste that honey. So he's thinking, when will that next drop of honey come? And in this way he passes his time, not realizing what is awaiting him. So when Vidura completes the narration to this level, then Dhritarashtra asks him, so what is the meaning of this story? What is the allegory? What are the metaphors? What is the lesson that we can learn from this? What is the meaning of this forest? What is the meaning of that demoness? What about those dangerous animals? What about that well, that creeper, those rats, that elephant? What is the meaning of all this? So Vidur begins to explain this allegory. He says that this forest, this very dense forest, is like the material world. And that man who is lost in that forest is the soul, the Atma. So the Atma is not meant to be in this world. Just as that man was not meant to be in the dense forest. He was meant to be in his village or the city or wherever he was living. Somehow or the other he entered into the forest. But he is meant to be somewhere else. So in the same way, the Atma is not meant to be in the material world where we are now. The Atma is meant to be somewhere else. But somehow or the other, the Atma is here. So the man represents the Atma. The forest represents this world, which is very frightening, which is full of all kinds of dangers and miseries. That those dangerous animals who were creating all kinds of noises and who were also threatening this man, they are the various diseases that afflict us from birth to death. And even before birth, sometimes even in the mother's womb, children can develop some kind of ailment. There are congenital ailments. They are already born with certain ailments. So all the time we are afflicted with some or the other ailment in the body. And who is that hideous lady, the demoness, who came running after this man? So she represents old age. None of us wants to grow old. We all want to remain young, healthy, strong, beautiful, have full sensory control and power. Nobody wants to grow old and to die. But we will be forced to grow old. This is also the law of nature. Nobody can escape it. So just as this old lady was chasing this man, it means that the old age is chasing us. That every second that we pass in this world, we are getting one day older. We are getting one day closer to our death. And then what is that well? The well is the kind of material body that we have received in this world. This body is always being subjected to so many pains. The different bugs and the mosquitoes and insects biting are like all the various troubles we get all the time in our life. Every day there is some or the other trouble. Some or the other difficulty comes in. Either somebody tells us something and we become disturbed, or something happens to our body or mind. So there are different kinds of troubles and miseries that come one after the other in our life. So those insects represent that. Then what about that snake that is at the bottom of the well? That snake represents death. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Mrityu sarva haras chaham. Mrityu sarva haraha cha aham. That I am personified death. You see, there are many people who don't believe in God. So our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada used to say that for those who don't believe in God and who always challenge, show me God, God does show himself, but he shows himself as death. It is not a very pleasant form of God. It is a very painful and unpleasant form of God, because it represents his Kala Shakti, his energy of time. Because of the working of the Kala Shakti, everything here is getting degraded second by second, minute by minute. So our body also is dwindling. Eventually it will get destroyed by the force of time. So Lord Krishna as time is also causing destruction of everything. Loka kshaya krit pravrittaha. Kalosmi. He says, I am time and I cause destruction of everything. Lord Krishna says in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So I am personified death. So all of us eventually at some point are going to have to face death. Now or later at some point. So in these Shastras, in our scriptures, death is compared to a snake. like a python, that ajagar, that is going to swallow us. And we are already practically in the mouth of the snake. But we are halfway in, we are getting pulled in further and further into the mouth of this python. Eventually, when death comes, what is the meaning of death? That we are totally inside the mouth of the python and we have no existence beyond that. So that python at the bottom of the well represents death. Then, what is that creeper? The creeper represents our hopes and our desires and our ambitions in life. We all have so many hopes and ambitions. I want to enjoy in this way. I want to do that. I want to make so much money. I want to get this position. I want to accomplish this. And these are the things that keep us going. They keep us alive. It is only because of hope and ambition that we are moving ahead with enthusiasm. The moment a person loses direction, hope, then he gets depressed and wants to give up his life. He says, what is the point in living? So, hope lies eternal in the human breast, one English poet has said. So, the living entities in this world, all the Atmas, are here pushing on because of that hope. But days, with every passing day and night, our hopes are getting dashed to the ground. So those white rats or mice and the black mice, they represent the days and nights. With every passing day and every passing night, we are closer and closer to the complete destruction of our hopes and ambitions. Because what is death? Death is the ultimate destruction of our hopes and plans. We may be a multi-billionaire also, and we may have so many plans of how many industries we will make, etc. But when the time comes for us to go, then no one can stop it. The doctors cannot save us. The government, the police, no one can save us. So in this way, the passing days and nights, they are like those rats. And who is that 6-faced, 12-foot elephant? That represents the calendar. 6 faces of the elephant represents the 6 seasons. And the 12 feet of the elephant represent the 12 months. So with every passing day and night, and then there are the passing months and the passing years. And the seasons, it goes on and on and on. And then what is the honey? The honey is a little pleasure that we get in this world. Few drops of pleasure. And it is these drops of honey that actually keep most people going in this world. They are willing to endure all the pain and suffering of this world just for a few drops of honey. A little bit of enjoyment in this world. So overall, just as that man was willing to endure, and indeed he even forgot about all the dangers and risks that were all around him. He forgot the fact that he was being subjected to so much pain by the stinging of the bees and so on. Still, his focus was on those drops of honey that were coming down, falling on his cheek and then going to his tongue. And he was constantly swinging here and there and moving his tongue, hoping to somehow taste that honey. So, Vidur explains to Dhritarashtra that, my dear brother, this is the condition of all the Atmas, of all the souls in this world who have forgotten their real designation. They have forgotten their real identity because they are just so much enamored by those few drops of honey, that little enjoyment that they can get in this world. They do not see the miseries and the dangers that are all around them. And therefore, they go on like this. Eventually, those rats are going to cut that creeper, and that man will fall right into the mouth of the snake and he will perish. So that is the end of one lifetime for us. And then we begin a fresh lifetime. And the same story repeats itself. So our Shastras say that till we understand what our true identity is, and we act in accordance with that true identity, we will have to continue remaining in this forest of material existence. We have to keep on taking birth again and again. And the reason for us having come here is that we wanted to be independently enjoyers. We are meant to be servants of God. That is our constitutional position. But when we give up that mentality and we want to come in this world as independent enjoyers, and we try to lord it over and become controllers and proprietors, then we are subjected to the pangs of miseries of this world. So, having understood why we are here, because we wanted to be away from God, from Lord Krishna, now the way to correct it is to go back, to surrender to Lord Krishna, and automatically then the path to liberation from this forest of material existence will open up for all of us. So this is the secret of happiness. This is the path of perfection for every one of us. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it has been said, Bhayam dvitiya bhiniveshatasya adishadapetasya viparjayo smritihi, that when the living entity turns away from God, then he experiences all kinds of fears and negativities. Just like when a person turns his back to the sun, then even in the presence of sun there is darkness of the shadow. But when one is facing the sun, then there is light everywhere. So Lord Krishna is waiting for us to return to him. We have to turn and face him, so to speak, meaning that we have to recognize his existence, recognize his teachings, appreciate his teachings, his devotees, and try to understand this knowledge. And then according to that knowledge, we have to try to live our life. That is the formula. That is what it means to turn our face to Lord Krishna again. And in this way, we make our life perfect. In the material world, to be servant is not considered such a good thing, because everyone wants to be the boss. Nobody wants to be the das or the servant. But in spiritual life, when we understand that I am the servant of Lord Krishna, then it is a glorious position to be in. All the great saints in history have shown this through their behavior, through their words, through their actions. So if we follow in their footsteps, then automatically we will also attain happiness, success, and perfection. So I think I'll stop here. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for having come here on a holiday. This is one day where you get to relax with your family, but you took out the time to come here for this satsang. Thank you for that. And Tamal Das and your good wife, thank you for hosting us today and making very nice arrangements for everybody. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So what is the exit from the forest apart from being das?
Sorry?
What is the exit from the forest apart from being das?
No, there is no other exit apart from being das. Like, if I'm being das, it means that I am obedient to the laws of the person who has made the forest, made this world,
If we just be translated as Das, we can go ahead.
Well, just the name or identity is one thing, but we have to act in accordance with that identity also.
So what are the actions? How should we act?
Okay. So, for example, now we say we are citizens of this country, correct? And that is one of our identities, that we are citizens of this country. But merely calling ourselves citizen is not sufficient. We have to also act as citizens. So there are many things a citizen is expected to do, including following all the laws. Yes? So similarly, when we say we are Das of Lord Krishna, then recognizing that we are Das is the first step. It is necessary but not sufficient condition. As a citizen, first step to understand I am the citizen, so I am bound to follow the laws. So now that I have accepted that yes, my constitutional position is to be servant, next what? What does it mean to be a servant? So that is where the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita come in, where we are told what the laws are that must be followed. What is it that God is expecting us to do as His servants, so that we may be relieved from the miseries of this existence and we will be able to go back to our spiritual realm and become free from the cycle of birth and death forever. So what are some of those activities? For example, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Man mana bhava mad bhakto mad yaji mam namaskuru mam e vaishasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. He says, Arjuna, and through Arjuna he is telling all of us, Man mana, always think of me in your mind. Bhava mad bhaktaha, become my devotee. That's the second thing he says. What does it mean to be devotee? It means to be devoted. What does devotion mean? It means love. So Lord Krishna is asking us to love Him. He loves us, but we have forgotten Him. So by connecting with Him, we have to develop that long lost love for Him. And by doing various actions, what does it mean to be a devotee? Then he goes on to say, Mam namaskuru. We have to offer namaskar to Him. You have to offer obeisances. Madhyaji. Then we have to worship Him and serve Him in so many ways. So what are the different ways in which we can become a devotee? And how will we become eligible to always think of Him? It's not easy to think of Him all the time, because we are used to thinking of various things in the world. So the way to think of Him always and to become a devotee is to follow the things that a devotee is supposed to do. In this day and age, the principal duty or activity of a devotee is to chant the names of God. Etavan Sankhya Yoga Bhyam Swadharma Parinishthaya Janma Labha Parah Punsam Ante Narayana Smriti. So, to think of God at the time of death, to think of Lord Narayana or Lord Krishna at the time of death, Ante Narayana Smriti, we have to become devotee of the Lord. This is the perfection of life. Janma Labha Paraha. The perfection of our life is to be able to think of Lord Krishna or Lord Narayana at the end of our life. And the way to do that is by chanting His names. Etan nirvidyamananam ichhatam akuto bhayam yoginam nipaniranitam hare namanu kirtanam. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam it is explained that whether one is a perfected yogi or a jnani, whether one is a full materialist, whether one is a sincere devotee, whoever one may be, the path of perfection for one is to do Hari Nama Kirtan, Harer Namanu Kirtanam, Anukirtana means to always do kirtan. Kirtan means to glorify the Supreme Lord, to always speak about Him, to sing about His glories, to chant His names. So that is the principal method by which we can actually revive our remembrance of Lord Krishna and our love for Him. Now that is generally possible only in the association of like-minded people. So that is what is called satsanga. Sat means truth. Sangha means the company. So when we come to satsang, we are coming in the company of the truthful, or the company of the path, those who are following the path of truth. Everywhere else it is asatsang. Asatsang means where you are not told about your real identity as a servant of God, as a spiritual spark, but you are told, enjoy. Become number one in this world, you enjoy life. So this whole idea that you are here as a controller, the proprietor, the enjoyer is asat, false. So we have to give up this mentality, the asat vritti, that mentality has to be given up. And we have to accept this devotional mentality and chant the names of God. Harer Namanu Kirtanam. And in pursuance of that, then we have to hear the discourses like we are doing now, or we have to speak the glories of God. Then we have to read the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and so on. We have to sit and chant on the beads the names of God. And we have to also collectively sit and musically chant the names of God. One is called japa, the other is called kirtan. Then the food we eat is also very important. Food can also become an important spiritual tool in our life. And generally people think of food only in terms of filling the belly and pleasing the taste buds of the tongue. But food can be a very powerful means to make spiritual advancement. When we take the right kind of food, the sattvic food, food in the mode of goodness, pure food, and you offer it to God with devotion, naivedya, it becomes prasad. Prasad means mercy. So when you have offered this pure food to God, to Lord Krishna, He very kindly accepts it. Yajna Shishtashana Santo Muchyante Sarvakil Vishaihi Bhunjate Te Tvagam Papa Ye Pachantyatma Karanat. So Lord Krishna says that those who take remnants of yajna become free from all these material attachments and they develop love for me. They become free from the cycle of birth and death, the karmic entanglement. But those who don't will remain tied up. So offering food to God, to Lord Krishna, is also a form of yajna. Chanting His name is also a form of yajna. Yajna, sacrifice. Yes, so these are different kinds of yajnas. So we do all this, yajno vai Vishnuho. So all those acts which are meant to satisfy the Lord, we do that with the spirit of wanting to please Him and serve Him and love Him. This is the path of bhakti, devotion. So if we do that, then automatically that spirit of servitude towards Him will increase day by day, and we will start experiencing a lot of happiness in our life. And then you can spread that happiness everywhere. Okay, that's in brief. Does that answer your question? So that is the way to exit the world. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yasyashmi tatvatah Tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tad anantaram. So Lord Krishna says, it is only by bhakti that you can understand me. Bhakti mam abhijanati. Yavan yaschashmi tatvata. Tatvata means in truth. So if you love Krishna, if you become his devotee, you will understand him. So knowledge and understanding comes through love, through devotion. It doesn't come only through intellectual effort, although that is also required. Because to understand the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, we have to apply our intelligence also. And that is also a form of worship. But nevertheless, the use of our intelligence has to be to direct our mind to serve and love Lord Krishna. The more we love him, the more we understand him. And then he says in this verse, Vishate tat anantaram, then we become eligible to go to his kingdom, to the spiritual world, to exit from this forest permanently. We get the visa to go there, where we actually belong. Okay? Yes.
Sorry, we understood and realized that if we become the Das, then we can achieve the freedom and we can live the good life. And after that, we can achieve the utmost goal of the life. But my query is why we have been put in that condition when we have to face this forest, vyati, misery, and this everything we have to face. And in that now we have to perform, we have to become the Das, and then again we to achieve the utmost goal. So why we have been put into that condition when we have to face all these things, then again we have to do the good things and then we have to come out the things.
Yes, that is a natural question that will come to mind. As I mentioned briefly during the lecture, the soul, that is the Atma, desires to falsely be the controller, the enjoyer, and the proprietor. And the soul's position is not to be that. Constitutionally, the soul is meant to serve God. That is its true position. But when the servant wants to become the master, then there is disturbance. Then it is an unnatural position. So, just like, say you have a small child, and the child is saying, I want to become a doctor. So you say, fine. But he says, no, I want to become a doctor right now. You say, how is that possible? You're only 5 years old. You have to study 10th standard, 12th standard, medical college, then you will become doctor. But the child is not in a position to understand all this. What does a 5-year-old child know what is medical college? He doesn't know. He just wants to become a doctor now. That's all. And he starts crying and he starts throwing a tantrum. So what will you do? You will get some toy stethoscope and some toy, some examining table, some little toys. And he is happy thinking, I am now a doctor. And he will make some medicines and he'll something and he'll give somebody. And so he's happy in that make-believe world. But slowly when he grows up, he realizes, this is not the real thing. I am not a doctor, this is just a toy. Actually, I have to go through school and then I will become a doctor, college and everything. So similarly, because it is impossible for us to become master, controller, enjoyer, but we are bent upon doing it, so there is a Disneyland for us here. You come into this world and make-believe world. Then everybody is living in their dream world. I am this, I am that. Everyone is assuming false identities. I am a rich man, I am this one, I am that. Everyone has their own dreams in this world. This is typically that make-believe world, where we are all living our dream. And there is no shortage of people who will tell you, chase your dream. You will see this propaganda everywhere by motivational speakers. Chase your dream, attain your dream. But a dream is a dream. It is not reality. So this whole existence around us is a dream. And we have to wake up out from this dream. And when we wake up, we realize, how does one wake up from a dream? When we are sleeping and dreaming, if someone shouts in your ear, then you wake up. So the sound vibration of God's names, when they ring, then they will wake up the sleeping Atma. And then the Atma begins to realize, oh, I was living in a dream world. That is not correct. I came here with a wrong reason to be enjoyer, proprietor, controller, but that is not possible. So when the Atma starts reviving its spiritual nature once again, which has been temporarily covered, it is like that child who is now beginning to grow up and realize the reality that actually I can't become a doctor like this. This was only make-believe. So in the same way, when the human being comes to a certain level of spiritual understanding and realizes that, oh, I am not meant to be like this. It can never be like that. I cannot be all of these things, controller, enjoyer, proprietor. So then at that point, he's beginning to wake up from the dream. So the reason why we came here is because of that misuse of our independence. Tiny independence, tiny free will. Even a small child has free will, as we have been seeing over the last 1 hour. All the children have their free will. They want to do something and they do it. Because every living entity has free will. And Lord Krishna doesn't force us to change it. He can easily force if he wants. But you see, the relationship between the Atma and the Paramatma is one of love. And love should come voluntarily. Love cannot be forced by holding a gun. You love me now. It cannot be done like that. Although Lord Krishna is supremely powerful, but he wants us to surrender unto him, to serve him, and to love him voluntarily. Then we will revive our original constitutional position and be happy, and we will be released from this cycle of birth and death. Okay? Any other question? Yes. Can mic here, please?
Yeah, Maharaj, you are mentioning that in this world we are getting these drops of honey, and because of that pleasure we are trying to stay in this world, and now there is a need to get out from this world. So what could be motivation to get out? Like miseries that are coming, knowledge, or there is no other way. So what will be the motivation to get out from this world?
Two things. One, to realize your actual predicament. If that man actually understood what is his position and focused is that this is what my situation is, and I'm getting distracted by this, and my end is going to be very dangerous, so I better do something about it. So the first step is to understand our situation. What is the reality of my situation? Right? Until we realize that, there is no question of coming out of it. Isn't it? The second, just that is not enough. For example, even if that man who is hanging upside down in the well understands his predicament, but he is helpless to come out, what does he do? Even if he is not interested in the drops of honey, but what is the way that he can come out now? So he needs the help of somebody from above who will give him a rope. He will catch hold of the rope and then start pulling himself up. So someone from outside has to give him that rope. Right? So the second point is that we have to come to the association of devotees, satsang, where from the Guru Parampara, the Acharyas are giving us the rope. And we hold that rope of knowledge, that rope of devotion, and then we can slowly start pulling ourselves out of that well. And holding that rope means that we gather knowledge, not only of our predicament, but also of the solution. You see, when we go to a doctor, when we are sick, first of all, if you don't go to a doctor, nobody can do anything. First thing is to recognize that I am sick. Isn't it? Many times what happens is, in many ailments, some blood test shows you that you are sick. You don't have no symptoms, so you don't even know that you are sick. But then you go and doctor tells you that you are sick. So we also don't realize we are suffering so much. So we need to be told by somebody, look, this is your condition. This material world is full of suffering. You are not happy here. So once we are told that, then we have to be also told, okay, so what is the prescription now? And the prescription will be of two types, always. The doctor will say, do this, do this, do this, take this medicine, eat this kind of food, do this, do this. And the second type of prescription is, don't do this, don't do this, don't eat fried things, don't eat sweets, whatever. Do that, don't do that. So similarly, when we also are made aware of our situation, the scriptures give us two kinds of prescriptions. One is called vidhi, the other is called nishedha. Vidhi means the rules to follow, those things that we must do. Nishedha means that which is not to be done, the prohibitions. So we follow both the vidhi and the nishedha. And in this way, that is what represents the rope that somebody is giving us. Then we hold that and we climb out of the well. So our participation, our free will, our determination, our interest is crucial. Because even if the person is handing us the rope, but we don't take hold of the rope, then nothing can be done. Correct? So that is the way to accept the instructions to come out. Okay, yes, Tamal Das.
Any other questions, comments? Anyone would like to share? All right. So I would like to thank Maharaj for taking out his valuable time once again, and we hope that we get more such opportunities in the future to have such close interaction and very open interaction, so to speak. Maharaj, in the age of this, we have the identities like Aadhaar, PAN, etc. Maharaj introduced us to a new identity of the being the servant of the Lord and to our duty to love Him. And I keep that. I would take that forward from your lecture today, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
It all started from your surname, Das.
Thank you.
What is Tamal?
Huh?
What does Tamal mean?
It's the name of a tree. Yeah.
Tree.
Yeah.
That tree is very dear to Lord Krishna. Also, Tamal, the color of the Tamal tree is very similar to the complexion of Lord Krishna. So therefore, Krishna's complexion is many times compared to the Tamal tree. Right?
And I would also like to thank all of you for taking out this valuable time to join us today to hear from Maharaj. And as the term itself, like satsang, like Maharaj was saying that we can chant in isolation, like japa we do, and we also do kirtan in union, like we come together. And it also helps, personally me, especially to have association. And so once again, very extremely thankful for all of you to be here. Right.